Okay class, we have a pop quiz today, so please settle down. If a Goliath has a multiplier of 760% attack, and Professor Anaxa has a 700% attack multiplier, that means a Goliath should be dealing 8% more damage. That's pretty simple. Now, if Mydei has a 616% HP multiplier, how much more damage does he do compared to Professor A? Is it A, 62% more damage, B, I don't know, C, it's not in the Kremnoan dictionary, or D,
hikers?
Now, the answer is... I don't really know. I'm just a raccoon. Oh, frick. That's my cue. Hello everyone, I hope you liked my little skit there. But on a serious note, with the rise of HU scalars in 3.x, it's finally time to ask ourselves, what the hell is HP scaling? And why is 7 cycles unreachable for Blade? Well, thankfully that's what we're here to figure out today. But first, let's talk about how we as players generally measure things. Just like how Genshin players measure a character's height in measurements of Xiao, or Americans with anything but the metric system, we as Star Rail players measure in multipliers and characters. This attack does half of an Acheron ult, or this attack has doubled the multiplier of a Scylla ult. But one common factor is how it all is based on the same unit of measurement, that being attack. If attack was the universal metric system, well, we can't really understand our HP brethren who are measuring with the imperial system. So why can't we just convert the values? Well, because nobody ever thought to do so, to my knowledge, though we really don't have that conversion rate. Well, can't we just convert with relics? As in, wouldn't an HP orb give the same results as say an attack or damage percent orb for the respective characters? Or even compare a crit damage body with an attack percent one? Well, to figure out if we can or cannot, we just need to calculate the respective damage increase for those different sources. For example, if an attack orb and damage percent orb both gave a 100% damage increase, then we could say that X value attack is equal to Y value damage bonus. But we do stumble on 2 roadblocks when doing this. The first is diminishing returns, and while there is no real diminishing returns in the game, as there's no soft cap or anything of that sort, it does technically exist. For example, if you have 100 attack and gain 10 attack, well, that's a 10% damage increase. But if you have 150 attack and gain the same 10 attack, going from 150 to 160, that's only a 6.6% damage increase. So the more you stack a stat, the less impactful each new bit becomes. As such, to make a fair comparison and to avoid inflated results from overstacking the stats, we'll be just starting at the base value of a stat. So for example, damage bonus starts at 0 while crit damage starts at 50. Speaking of, let's first quickly go over crit and damage bonus to see if they are comparable. Yes, I know this is an attack versus HP video, but trust me, this is pretty important. To do this, we need to know what intervals of stat increase we'll go by. Thankfully, we have 2 places to look at. First, we can look at our 2-piece effects, where you would generally either get 16 crit value or 10% damage bonus. The second place to look at is, of course, the main stats for our relics, where you get either a 38.88 damage bonus or 64.8 crit value. As you can see, the values do line up, where the main stats are around 4 times as much as the 2-piece bonuses, which gives us a consistent unit to measure by, that being 16 crit value and 10% damage bonus. So we now know a consistent value to measure by, but do they give the same damage increase? Well, using this formula and assuming 100 crit rate, we can just insert our 2 values, which will give us near identical results. Though the values are very close, it's not quite there yet. In actuality, its 15 crit value is equal to 10 damage bonus, which grants us a 10% damage increase at the start. Or we can say that 1% damage bonus is equal to 1.5 crit value, which is equal to a 1% damage increase near the start. Of course, the higher the value, the less each one would provide. Okay, so now we know the conversion rate between damage percent and crit, but it doesn't answer why we found out information in the first place. Well, it's because there's a clear distinction between damage percent and crit versus something like attack, HP, and defense. That being, the latter's 3 stats are all scaling off of another number, while damage percent and crit just give us the raw increase. As such, the process to find the conversion rate for damage percent and crit went something like this. Find the incremental value, find the increase in damage, then see if they're comparable and convert. But with attack, HP, and defense, we now got a whole nother thing to factor in, that being the base stats they scale off of. As such, we now got some additional steps. Firstly, we need the base values which the HP and attack scale off of, that being the character and their light cone. For this, I'll be using the median HP of our characters, that being 1086, and not the median attack, but a number of 543, which you'll see why I chose that number soon. For our light cones, I found the median again, which is 952 for HP and 476 for attack. Totaling it up, we get a kind of average HP of 2038 and attack of 1019. Now, do you see something fishy with those numbers? No? What about using these charts? Anything fishy? Well, if you guessed that HP is exactly double that of attack, you'd be correct. So we also see this with the helmet and gloves, where the helmet also gives us double the value. Wait a minute, isn't the basic attack multiplier half of attack? So the HP we scale off of is just double that of attack? Is that it? Was it really that simple? To make absolutely sure, I've used Dr. Ratio with the highest base attack light cone and Mydei with the highest HP light cone, and as you can see, the damage is identical, as Mydei's HP is double that of Ratio's. But of course, the HP multiplier is half of attack. Also, Castorice exists with even higher HP, but there currently isn't anybody with matching attack. I do want to note that the average HP at this moment is actually slightly less than the average attack. But this is where the story ends, right? No, not quite yet. We still have some questions to answer, such as, does HP scale better than attack? The answer is yes, as they get double the stat to scale off of as opposed to attack. But this is however balanced out with the fact that HP scaling is generally half of what attack scalers would have. So, if two units were to have a 300% multiplier, but one is of attack and another of HP, the HP scaler would deal double the damage. But in game, the attack scaler would have a 300% multiplier, while the HP scaler would have a 150% multiplier, so it all balances out. Now, the next question, how does HP or attack compare to crit or damage percent? Well, thankfully, we can do the same type of conversion again via the two-piece relics, with us getting 12% attack and HP. I'll put the math on the screen. As you can see, both are 12% damage increases. Or in other words, a 1% HP or attack increase is a 1% damage increase, which would equate to a 1% damage bonus or 1.5% crit damage. Wait. If that's the case, and we know that 1% attack or HP is equal to 1% damage bonus, doesn't that mean HP or attack orb should be giving us more value as it gives around 4% more worth of stats? That's true, but that's only when it's in a complete vacuum and you have literally zero relics. But once you start adding the helmet or gloves, or HP or attack orbs or ropes, yeah, diminishing return starts to kick in, which makes it not the case. Next question is, why does Blade do little PP damage? Well, let's look at his basic attack multiplier. At talent level 6, it's 100% HP and 40% attack to the main target, and 40% HP and 16 attack to the adjacent targets. But now that we know that HP is double that of attack, we can easily convert the numbers to attack, which we get a multiplier of 432%. This is not small damage at all, and is very close to a ratio chalk and skill, which equates to 420%. So why is it doing so little damage? Well, there are a couple of reasons. One, Blade doesn't actually have a 432 attack multiplier. He is a HP and attack split scaler, which means if he were to get HP buffs from someone like Hyacinth, he can't technically fully utilize it. And two, the actual reason why. He simply has lower total numbers, buffs, and whatever the case is compared to the 3.x cast. When calculating how much damage a character does, we can divide it into three main parts: multiplier, self buffs, and debuffs. Well, let's see how Blade fits in those three categories. Imagine Blade did have a 432 attack multiplier. Well, what else does he have in his kit? Nothing. Literally nothing. So let's compare to someone like a Noxa, who will be the new win DPS in town, who has a 700% multiplier, 140 crit damage, up to 130 damage bonus, and 28% defense ignore. Yeah, he's getting absolutely stat checked in every department by a mile. In comparison to Mydei, his Kingslayer Beat King is already slightly higher than Blade, but he doesn't have the issue of split scaling. Oh, and that's not including how he gets 48 crit rate and a 50% increase in max HP. I know people say self buffs make characters age worse, and that's technically true, but no, they are just as important as high multipliers. It's the combination of everything that determines how well a character would age. So yeah, we now know why Blade is kinda weak, in a vacuum. What happens when you get some OP supports to roll up? Well, because there are so many buffs and every stat becomes inflated, they all become relatively close. But of course, Blade trails behind. I'd rather not speculate too much, as he should be getting a buff in 3.4, but hopefully at least some multiplier increases or some form of self buff will be good. Before I get to the end of the video, I do want to answer the pop quiz question that I put in the beginning of the video. Well, knowing what we know now, it turns out that Mydei's attack does 76% more damage than a Noxa. But funny enough, when compared to Aglaya, he actually does do 62% more damage. Moving on to the end of the video, I'll put a chart on the screen of the HP to attack conversion for our characters. But while that's on the screen, I just want to say I'm really glad you made it to the end of the video. For my returning subscribers who have been waiting for this video that should have taken like no time to make but instead like 4 weeks, I really do apologize. I'm graduating uni soon, so I haven't really had time to do much. Besides that, I hope this video was pretty interesting and that you guys have a blessed week. Peace.